identified need for an airport in this location. That's your evidence. And the point that I'm putting to you is that we need to look at the whole sentence from which you've quoted, which recognises a role for Manston in relieving capacity at the London airports, doesn't it?
The sentence in full says that there is some potential. It doesn't say there's a need.
Forgive me, the point I'm asking you about is in how you have represented the report in your subparagraph B, where you are suggesting that it's been ruled out by the Airports Commission. And the Airports Commission is actually recognising the potential for Manston to act as a reliever in terms of capacity, isn't it? And that needs to be reflected, doesn't it, in what you're saying in subparagraph B?
Subparagraph B says that the report says there is no need for an airport in this location. The report here says that it identifies some potential as a reliever airport, noting that the title relates to the Commission, the proposals that do not fit with the Commission's remit or offer a solution to the key question of providing additional long-term capacity and connectivity for the UK. So I think the way you've presented that is correct. It doesn't conclude that there is a need for an airport in this location. Need and potential being two different things in my view.
And so in writing your evidence, you didn't think it was appropriate or necessary to help the inspector by drawing attention to the fact that the Commission did recognise some potential for Manston Airport?
I don't think that's material.
That's a matter for the inspector to judge, but we've drawn it to his attention. Right, moving on then to the other points that you raise. Just put that document away now. So then please, coming back to paragraph 6.96c, where you draw attention to the fact that Thanet District Council didn't enter into an indemnity partnership agreement with River Oak. And I think we've already agreed that in the event there's an alternative result to it through the process. And have you had a chance to have a look at the draft indemnity agreement that was on the table at the time, Mr. Alston? Can you answer any questions about that, or would that be unfair?
That would be unfair.
Thank you. In the light of that, I won't ask you any questions relating to that. I can make submissions about it. And would the same apply to any notes being provided in respect of the correct approach or otherwise to CPOs? That's something that you'd like to pass the buck on, is it?
I'm afraid that's outside of my professional expertise.
That's absolutely fine. If you can't help, it's not right for me to ask you questions about it. That's absolutely fine. And then over the page, you refer at little d to Thanet District Council's Avia Solutions report. And you rely on that report, don't you, in order to make or help make your case that there's no reasonable prospect of the airport being put back into airport use, because you specifically refer to it, don't you?
Agreed.
And again, we have to see, in the light of that, Mr. Kane explained to this inquiry why he didn't think that could be relied upon, and Dr. Dixon explained why she didn't think that it was a document that could hold any weight. And neither of those judgments were challenged by the appellant, were they?
Neither of those reports or that evidence was challenged by us. It's seems to me what we have is a position where we have conflicting advice from two different sets of aviation experts, none of which has been subject to independent examination.
That is right, because we haven't obviously got to an examination of the local plan yet, or indeed of the DCO. But the council don't produce the writer of the Avia Solutions report to defend that report at this inquiry, do they?
That's correct.
And the appellant doesn't produce any expert to defend it either, do they?
That's correct, because it's not necessary to reach a conclusive view on those matters as part of this inquiry.
And yet you seek to rely upon it for the purposes of your evidence, don't you, Mr. Alston?
No, we do not rely upon it.
On that basis, then, can we put a line through subparagraph D, then, of your evidence? If you're no longer relying on it, can we remove it from your evidence? Can I put a line through that? Can I ask the inspector to?
No, it's part of a number of points that form part of our evidence. But
well, forgive me, Mr. Alston. If you are relying upon the Avia Solutions report, then it is inevitable, isn't it, that the evidence of Mr. Kane and Dr. Dixon, insofar as the reliability of that report, also needs to be taken into account at this inquiry.
I think that's reasonable.
And that evidence is unchallenged. That's also reasonable, isn't it?
That evidence is unchallenged, but it's not to say that we agree with that evidence.
You're not in a position to disagree with it, are you, Mr. Alston, because you're not an aviation expert, are you?
Correct.
Well, that's all I want to ask you about the Avia Solutions report. Can we then move on to the next little point that you make at subparagraph E? And this, as I understand it, seems to be the point that you're making. Well, not much progress has been made on the development consent order. But, and also at the end of that paragraph, where you say there's no evidence to show that recommencing use of the airfield has a reasonable prospect of being deliverable in practice. I appreciate that you wrote that at the time you hadn't seen River Oaks evidence, but that's no longer the case, is it?
I think it's fair to say that things have moved on a little since we prepared this proof, in that at the time the only information we had about River Oaks proposition was the informal public consultation document, the appeal statement, and the EIA scoping paper. So, as a consequence of receiving the proofs, we recognise that further work has been undertaken. But as per my earlier point, there's still a huge amount of work that needs to be done in order to reach a conclusive view on the proposition.
But we've already agreed that a conclusive view is not the issue for this inquiry, haven't we?
Yes.
All right. Well, can we then just come back to the limited progress